What's going on, everybody? I'm Primalliquid, bringing you guys some exciting new news for Final Fantasy 16. So, over on the official Final Fantasy 16 website, released by Square Enix, we do have some new information now. So, how about we just cut through everything and jump straight into it, shall we? So, obviously, on the main page, we are directed to a lovely image of the protagonist with the Final Fantasy 16. The legacy of the crystals has shaped our history for long enough, and of course we know it is going to be on the PS5. So if we scroll down a bit though, this is where we get the new information. So the Awakening trailer is the trailer that we originally saw when they announced the game. However, now we have some information on the world and the characters of the game. So let's just jump into what's new in the world, shall we? So straight off the bat, nice little image here of one of the main cities, and we also know that it is called Valistea, a land blessed in the light of the Mother Crystals. The land of Valistea is studded with Mother Crystals, so there's no longer just one Mother Crystal like the trailer initially led us to believe. Mother Crystals means more than one, and we'll get to that momentarily. Glittering mountains of crystal that tower over the realms and around them, blessing them with ether. For generations, people have flocked to these beacons to take advantage of their blessing, using the ether to conjure magics that let them live lives of comfort and plenty. Great powers have grown up around each Mother Crystal, and an uneasy peace has long reigned between them. Yet now the peace falters as the spread of the Blight threatens to destroy their dominions. Now, we still don't really know what the Blight is, although honestly, just reading this little bit of information makes me think that maybe the Blight is because the crystals are losing energy, they're losing power. If people have been flocking to these crystals to use them to further their own agenda, live better lives and things like that, then maybe the crystals are just running out of power as time's gone on. It's like nothing is ever really infinite, so if the crystals are running out of power, it would explain why the world is maybe suffering now. Maybe the crystals maintain the world, and as their power runs out, that's where the Blight comes from. But again, that is just complete theory crafting on my part. Anyway, more information on the icons and the dominants. So the icons are the most powerful and deadly creatures in Valistea. Each resides within a dominant, a single man or woman who is blessed with the ability to call upon their dread power. In some nations, these dominants are treated as royalty in admiration of their strength. In others, they are bound in fear of it and forced to serve as weapons of war. Those who are born as dominant cannot escape their fate, however cruel it may be. Now, this is really interesting. So it means that icons are both feared and revered depending on where you are in the world. Now, this makes me think of the war between Shiva and Titan. We know from the cutscene that our main character is basically after Shiva's dominant at one point. So maybe Shiva's dominant is one of the ones who are feared on and are essentially, you know, just a tool of war and things like that. However, we also know that Joshua, the Phoenix dominant, is not feared. He's not sent off to war or anything like that. He actually does live a life of royalty. And, well, we'll get to that once we get to the characters, but the Phoenix is a little bit more important. So yeah, there's definitely some interesting takeaways there from the icons. Like, this could be really interesting to actually jump into and really break down. And now we get to the juicy stuff. We have a full map of Valistea. Now I'm going to try and keep this sort of where the text isn't appearing. Unfortunately, I can't get rid of the Realms of Valistea text right in the center of it. But here we have the full world map. At least what we assume to be the full world map. Like, we could have more and more maps released as time goes on. For now though, I'm going to assume this is the full world map. So an interesting note though is, if you look here, so this is going to be one of the crystals. We have a crystal here, one here in the center, and then one here on the far left. Now that is 4 crystals that we know of. However, are they all linked to their icons? Are there any hidden? we'll just have to wait and see. Now, a few other things that I do want to point out. So, obviously over here on the right-hand landmass, there's not really any cities or anything like that. We have a small little city here above the V of Valistea, and then up here by the Mother Crystal, we have quite a large city. So there only seems to be these 2 cities here on the entire landmass. Obviously, you know, I'm going to assume this is not the complete map. This is just like a teaser and things like that for us to look through. So I am expecting a lot more, you know, villages, settlements, things like that. Maybe villages and settlements are just too small and they don't appear on the world map. Who knows, it's anybody's guess, especially with there being ships down here and here. So again, there could be cities there. Either that or it's just a complete barren wasteland, basically. Like, it's anybody's guess at this point. Then over on the left side, we do see a lot more cities, or at least what I assume to be cities, forts, maybe some fortresses, and then a few other things as well. Namely, one of the things that I'm really interested in is... well, I'll get to it later, but I know that this little bit on the left here is essentially the Phoenix's domain and Mother Crystal. So this little city slash town slash whatever here, I imagine to be where Joshua and the main character are born. We will touch on that a little bit in a minute though, once I get through to the next little bit. But I'm interested about this mountain range here. Now, this to me screams Titan. But I really don't know if that's actually going to be the case. Simply due to the fact we have a little few things up here, sort of in the middle. We've got a nice mountain range here. And we know from the original trailer, Titan does fight in a mountain range. However, around the actual, like, well, I assume it's going to be another volcano. But around this, there's no real identity of any sort of like mountainous land range or anything like that. But if you look closer to this settlement here, there's definitely a lot of rocky outcrops. So maybe Titan's dominance is based somewhere down the south here in this little town area here. And maybe the war just takes place up here. Now, this is like a white Mother Crystal, so I'm going to assume that is actually Shiva's dominant area. So again, it would stand to reason if they do fight around this middle region, which is, you know, sort of between the two, but also surrounded by rocky landmass. Plus, you know, it is sort of near where Joshua's from as well, and the main character, so it would explain why we're out to get Shiva's dominant, maybe, you know. Last but not least though, we do have something really interesting here on the very middle of the map. Now, it looks to be sort of like a whirlpool in the ocean. Obviously, this is all going to be sea around here, you know, as depicted by the boats and things like that. But we've not actually seen anything for, say, Leviathan in the game. So this is leading me to believe that maybe this is going to be related to Leviathan. Because if we move on, we actually do get an introduction to the 6 factions in the world of Valistea. So definitely a lot more than the 3 I initially thought of in the trailer analysis. But let's take a look at them, shall we? So, the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. Long ago, a group of small independent provinces in western Valistea found strength in unity and formed the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. After years of relative prosperity, the duchy now finds itself threatened by the spread of the Blight, a threat that, left unchecked, would doubtless usher the realm to ruin. Rosaria draws its ether from Drake's Breath, a mother crystal situated on a volcanic island off of the coast. The dominion of the Phoenix, Icon of Fire, is enthroned as Archduke when they come of age. So straight off the bat, we do see an emblem of the Phoenix for the family crest, the duchy crest, you know, whatever you want to call it. Now, this, again, as I mentioned, basically points to this area over here on the western side of the continent. So we have the Mother Crystal in the volcano, a little town sort of next to it, or village next to it, you know, whatever you want to call it. So this leads me to believe that this is where Joshua and the main character are initially from. So only a small section of the map, but look at all the coverage that we have. Anyway, let's move on. So the Holy Empire of Sambraku. Now, Sambraku is the largest theocratic force in Valistea. The Empire's holy capital, Oriflamme, is built around Drake's head, the mother crystal that blesses the surrounding provinces with abundant ether. The people happily take advantage of this, living in comfort and security under the watchful gaze of the Holy Emperor, whom they worship as the living incarnation of the one true deity. The Dominion of Unknown, it's completely blacked out, so, you know, this isn't something I've done in editing, this is on the website itself. It serves as the Empire's champion, taking to the field in times of war to rout its enemies. Now, this is a really, really interesting one. So, basically, they worship somebody as the living incarnation of the one true deity. So this leads me to believe there are multiple deities in the actual story of the game. However, this seems to be the very religious, fanatic sort of side, you know, like your god's fake, my god's real, that sort of thing. So something tells me these are probably going to be quite a large enemy, and the Holy Emperor is probably going to be a dominant as well, you know, obviously just because it says right here, the true deity, the dominant of such and such. Now, if we actually look at where the Holy Empire is, there's only two real logical places for this to be, either up here in the top of the map here, or over on the right. The reason for that is simple. It specifically states the largest crystal, basically. So if it's blessing the surrounding area as well, then again I would assume it would be this one, just because of the size of it and the size of the city, castle, you know, whatever you want to call it, just here. So that's why I think the Holy Empire is located here on the map. Now, the Kingdom of Wallode. Wallode claims the entirety of Ash, the eastern half of Disgaea. As its dominion, the kingdom's control of the continent has often been tested by the orcs and other beastmen who make their home there, but the current ruler of the realm, dominant of, again, blank, has succeeded in quelling their rebellions. Using the power of the kingdom's mother crystal, Drake's Spine, this new king has built up a mighty army with which he now seeks to test the borders of his neighbours. So that pretty much just straight up confirms that, you know, this is Wallode right here. However, given its interesting nature in that it's related to all beastmen and beastkin and things like that, I'm going to assume that the Kingdom of Wallode is actually the home of Garuda. It stands to reason that if the entire continent is infested with beastkin, it would basically be Garuda's home ground. So the the Holy Empire is probably Shiva, I would imagine, just because of the little icon on the actual crest there. It does look like a female form, but then we do have the dragons down here as well, so it could also actually be Bahamut. You know, Bahamut is often signed as a god in Final Fantasy games. He's the dragon god, and if he's the one true deity, then it could actually be Bahamut. And of course, the Kingdom of Wallode does have sort of a beast emblem. It does look like a horse, so maybe something along the lines of Ixion, but we don't have Ixion announced. So I'm going to assume for now it's going to be Garuda, because that is the only sort of beast icon we know of so far. Now if we scroll down a little bit further, we do get 3 more crests. Now these are kind of interesting. So if we take a look at the Dhalmekian Republic, the Dhalmekian Republic is made up of 5 states, from which the members of its ruling parliament are drawn. Its mother crystal, Drake's Fang, is half hidden in the heart of a mountain range. The Republic's control over it and its ether, securing the obedience of the larger part of the southern Disgaea. The dominant of Titan, Icon of Earth, is installed as a special advisor to Parliament and has a significant say in its decision making. So if we go up to the actual map again, that pretty much says that this right here is going to be the home of Titan. So the Mother Crystal is highly likely to be in this large mountain range here. Okay, so the Iron Kingdom. A small group of islands off of the coast of Storm, the western half of Disgaea's twin realms. Here, the crystalline orthodox and extreme faith that worships crystals reigns supreme. The Iron Kingdom controls Drake's breath. the mother crystal that sits at the heart of one of their islands. Long a source of consternation with neighbouring Rosaria, isolated and aloof from the mainland nations, the Ironblood speak their own language. Orthodox doctrine judges dominance to be unholy abominations, and any unlucky enough to be born on the islands are executed. So straight off the bat, we know that these guys hate dominance. They won't have a dominant in their nation. They'll straight up kill them as soon as they're born, basically. Now, given it's pointing out the Western Islands, that's going to be over here. However, notice there's no real mother crystal on the map other than this big one right here. But with what we read before, this one does actually sort of point to being the fire mother crystal for Joshua. So there's going to be a mother crystal on here somewhere that is hidden. However, again, if you look just sort of down here, there is a tiny little bit of the map that we can't see because it's hidden behind the crest. So maybe there'll be something there. We don't know. And last but not least, we have the Crystalline Dominion. The Crystalline Dominion sits at the heart of Disgaea, built around the tallest of all the mother crystals, Drake's Tail. Many bloody battles were fought for control of this small plot of land due to its strategic importance, till the warring realms finally agreed to an armistice. As part of the peace treaty, the islands around Drake's Tail became an autonomous dominion led by a council of representatives from the surrounding nations, each realm enjoying equal claim to the Mother Crystal's blessings. No dominant makes their home here. So this is really, really interesting. So that's obviously going to be this one right here. However, there's no dominant here. So if we actually look at where dominants are, we know there's going to be one here, which is going to be the dominant of the Phoenix, aka Joshua. Titan's going to be down here in the south. We have Shiva up here in the north, or what we assume to be Shiva up in the north. And then we have Garuda over here on the east. However, we do know of at least one more icon over here on the west, but we don't know what it is because their dominants are killed as soon as they are born, essentially. So straight off the bat, there's one icon we don't know whatsoever. Not only that, we don't know anything about this icon either. Reason stands to believe that if there is a mother crystal, there will be an icon there. So there are two icons not announced, or like we just haven't deduced which ones yet, that we have no idea what they are, which actually brings the total icon number up to 6. But again, we don't really know anything more on that at this point in time. Now, if we take a look at the characters, this again is new information released today. Right, so the characters, this right here is the main character, Clive Rosfield, the firstborn son of the Archduke of Rosaria. Though all expected him to inherit the Phoenix's flames and awaken as its dominant, destiny instead chose his younger brother Joshua to bear this burden. In search for a role of his own, Clive dedicated himself to mastering the blade. His practice pays off when, at just 15 years of age, he wins the Ducal tournament and is dubbed the first Shield of Rosaria, tasked to guard the Phoenix, and blessed with the ability to wield a part of his fire. Alas, Clive's promising career is to end in tragedy at the hands of a mysterious dark icon Ifrit, setting him on a dangerous road to revenge. So, again, we know that Clive, the main character, is going to be able to wield the powers of the Phoenix. This seems to be because he's a Shield of Rosaria, but I will touch on this again momentarily. So we have Joshua Rosfield, the second son of the Archduke of Rosaria and Clive's younger brother by 5 years. Joshua awoke as the dominant of the Phoenix soon after his birth. Despite his noble upbringing, Joshua treats all his father's subjects with warmth and affection, none more so than Clive, whom he deeply admires. Joshua often laments that it was he, the frail and bookish younger son, who was granted command of the Pbird's flames, and not his stronger, braver brother. While Clive will gladly throw himself into any danger, Joshua quails at the sight of a carrot on his dinner plate. But carrots become the least of his concern when he, too, is swept up in the tragic events that change Clive's life forever. Okay, So this is really leading me to believe, along what we saw in the trailer, we do know that there's a betrayal, and Clive does get stabbed while trying to protect Joshua. However, in that trailer, it's portrayed in such a way that Joshua essentially goes berserk, and it portrays him to be the one that turns into Ifrit. Is that really what happens? No idea. If Joshua is the one who becomes Ifrit, then Clive is essentially going to have the power of the Phoenix, and he just doesn't have full control over it over a younger age. He just has a part of the power early on. Or it's going to be a reverse. Maybe Clive has the firepower of Ifrit, and that is essentially where, you know, he is the one who turns into Ifrit once he has been stabbed at the scene in the trailer. Again, though, that is complete speculation. Could be wrong, could be right, could be completely way off the mark. But we'll leave that for a deep dive analysis, I think. Anyway, last but not least on the newly released information is Jill Warwick. Now, born in the fallen Northern Territories, Jill was taken from her homeland at a tender age to become a ward of Rosaria, securing peace between the two warring nations. The Archduke insisted that she be raised alongside his sons, and now, at 12 years of age, she is as much a part of the Rossfield household as Clive and Joshua. Ever kind, gracious, and unassuming, Jill has become a trusted confidant to the brothers. Now, this is really interesting, because in the trailer, we actually saw the main character and Jill looking very subservient to Joshua. Obviously, Joshua is the next Archduke because he is the inheritor of the Phoenix's power, so it does stand to reason that he has a higher, you know, position in the family. But the fact that both Clive and Jill actually bow to him and essentially treat him as, you know, like God's creation and all that, you know, he's the best thing ever since sliced bread. It leads me to believe that there's definitely something between the three characters that we don't know of yet. Joshua definitely has the highest field in terms of power and reign in the territory, which means he is definitely above Clive and Jill. However, in the trailer, originally Jill comes across as looking very much like a maid, just like a family maid, who is essentially a servant of Joshua. You know, she takes care of all his daily needs and necessities and things like that. But now that we've got this little bit of information here, she's definitely going to be far more important than we ever believed possible. Now, I know in the FF16 trailer breakdown that I did, we do see an older character who does look a little like an older Jill. And now that we know she is more important than we initially believed, she's a confidant to the brothers, which means to Clive as well. I am going to assume that is just an older version of Jill with Clive during the meeting. But yeah, guys, that is going to be it for all the new information we have had. There's definitely quite a lot to go through, and I will definitely be doing a breakdown for both the world and the characters. So if that's something you're interested in, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Anyway though, guys, if you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button, and if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the breakdown videos coming. But like always, everybody, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.